let's go. I'm a bulldog. So Georgia, who I'm picking. I love the family atmosphere and the way they handle business.
Good evening, DawgNation. This is a busy week, busy time of year. This is Jeff Sentell. I'm Jeff Sentell. This is here. If you wanted to show up, you wanted to watch Before the Hedges, brought to you by Kroger, we're in the right place where we talk about all the latest, the biggest things going on right now in Georgia football recruiting. And I think big appropriately sums up this weekend. Let me give you a little backstory here. So normally this is the annual weekend where Georgia holds its Scavenger Hunt weekend. Now, in years past, big names have came. I think of Nolan Smith, Jalen Hazelwood, Jermaine Johnson. I believe Oscar Delp was on a Scavenger Hunt. Many prospects. This is a fun weekend. It's a chill weekend. It's a different way, a different spin on doing a campus tour. It's right before the summer officials, and what Georgia's doing is they're hosting a scavenger hunt, and it means going across campus. It means getting selfies. Some years it was even like taking a picture with a Burmese python, I believe, which created an obscure NCAA rule because of that. But this weekend, it's a lot more than that. Not only do you have the normal kind of target visitors, priority visitors, but now you've got 4 official visitors that are scheduled to be in Athens this weekend for the official visit. And news just kind of happened today that made this event get even more supersized. 5-star offensive tackle David Sanders Jr. and his family will be coming back to Athens. They were just in Athens in March for spring practice, I believe April for spring practice, I believe, late March. And they'll be back in a couple more weeks for his official visit. But the thing I wanted to talk to tonight is, in honor of a scavenger hunt, we kind of thought, in weeks past, in honor of the scavenger hunt in weeks past, we'd like to do Easter eggs, right? Where we kind of say, hey, look for this in the show. Well, we decided, since it's a scavenger hunt weekend, why not have a scavenger hunt show? And that means, now listen to me, folks, lean in real close. Anybody want to play a scavenger hunt tonight? We're going to load this show up with about 5 things, because just 5, guys. I didn't want to make this like an AP research project or a college thesis or whatever. But if you want to play along with the scavenger hunt tonight, you can. We're going to drop a list here in a second, and I will get some DawgNation merch to the first person who emails me the answers to these questions. Now, screenshot it or whatever, but let's go over it. Scavenger hunt time. Somebody name drops a superhero in an interview. Give me the name of this superhero. Number 2, a recruit with a very famous name is mentioned. Famous could mean anything, like out in the world. It could be like quarterback by the name of Tom Cruise. It could be an offensive tackle by the name of Arnold Schwarzenegger. It could be a receiver named Michael Jordan. You'll know it when you hear it, and I want you to give me the name of the very famous recruit. The third thing is, whenever I say something is going on that I'd never seen before in UGA recruiting, that's something to put in there in your list. And number 4, I want you to identify the Game of Thrones reference in this week's show. I thought about Star Wars. I thought about Game of Thrones. We got a lot of Game of Thrones fans out there, especially our talented producer, Miss Kaylee Mansell, behind the glass. So I know she would be a fan of anything we do on this show regarding Game of Thrones. And number 5, this is an easy one. This is kind of like the free space in your bingo. Who is the new name added to the commitment list this week? Watch the show, get your answers together. Send me those 5 answers to jeffsentellajc@gmail.com. I'll say it a couple of times. I'll say it at the end of the show, jeffsentellajc@gmail.com. And if you want to win the scavenger hunt, I'll get you some DawgNation merch because, hey, the Dogs are doing a scavenger hunt this weekend. Why not we do a scavenger hunt here with Before the Hedges? So there's your list. There's your homework. Hope you play along. If I get multiple correct answers, everybody gets some good class participation, audience participation. I'll kind of go into the DawgNation prize vault, the merch vault, for some more even really good stuff. We can't give away Eddie. Brandon would have a heart attack, but maybe we can see what we can find for anybody that wants to play scavenger hunt along here with DawgNation. First of all, Big Five time. First up on our Big Five right now is we're taking a look at the official visitors, the big names that we've been able to confirm that will be in Athens this weekend. We got a loaded Big Five show. You're going to have a DawgNation conversation. You're going to have stuff. You get pretty cool answers here, pretty cool sound here from Kirby Smart on some topics relevant to the stratosphere of Georgia football recruiting and college football in general. We're going to hear from Christian Garrett. We're going to hear from Nasir Johnson. We're going to take a deeper look right now into this loaded Scavenger Hunt weekend, and I want you to tell. Let's take a look at the list right here of all the names that are in town for the Scavenger Hunt. But it is a loaded weekend, and first of all, you got David Sanders Jr. This list is so big, guys, that we've got 2 slides to kind of cover it all. David Sanders Jr., that's the Providence Day school standout in Charlotte, nation's #1 OT, #2 overall prospect. He's undecided. He just went to check out Nebraska. He's going to check out Georgia this weekend with his family. Nebraska was an official visit. He also saw South Carolina on an official visit. He went on a very impactful unofficial visit to Ohio State, Clemson, Georgia, Tennessee, Ohio State. Those schools will all get official visits in this month of June. So this is huge. He's the highest rated guy right now. The list will grow, no doubt. The list will swell, but these are the highest rated prospects that are supposed to be in Athens this weekend. We got to go to the 2026 class right here. Nashville, Tennessee's Jared Curtis, #1 quarterback, #8 overall prospect in the 2026 class. He's a UGA commit. Currently, we're expecting the #2 linebacker in the country, Zayden Walker, out of Schley County in Ellaville, Georgia. He just participated in the Schley County. He just participated in the Georgia High School Association Class 1A state track championships this past weekend. Trey McNutt, big name here, #1 safety in the country, #24 overall prospect. He's going to be in Athens town this weekend. And it's for those that are kind of wondering, hey, what's going on right here with Georgia and defensive back? Well, that's the #1 safety in the country. Of course, he's in the middle of Ohio State land right there, Ohio State country, Ohio State nation. But he's going to check out Georgia this weekend. 4-star Isaiah Gibson out of Warner Robins, Georgia, currently a USC commitment, #5 edge in the country, #56 overall prospect. Currently committed to USC. That was a bit of a shocker when he committed to USC. Isaiah Gibson will be in Athens this weekend, and he's also going to be in Athens on May 31st for his official visit weekend. And while we're on the subject of Isaiah Gibson, I mean, this is something that caught my eye today. I think I've caught a lot of eyes here on social media. Isaiah Gibson tweeted something out, and it was kind of like somebody on Twitter commented or somebody on X commented about kind of the fisheye lens that was used here for the photography. But take a look at this. This is Isaiah Gibson, and you see in there, that's some Kirby Smart right there. That's Coach Uzo Duribe, Chidera Uzo Duribe. And you got Goat Talk Dog 100. That's a very curious thing to tweet out, especially when you're going to be back in Athens this weekend. Of course, let's just be honest. We've always kind of felt here on this program, inside DawgNation circles, that this recruiting will go the distance. Isaiah Gibson has said that it's going to take that thing all the way up to early signing day in December. But there's still some great confidence there for Georgia on Georgia's part to pull the flip here for Isaiah Gibson. I think 24/7 Sports still ranks him as the nation's #1 edge for its pure, isolated 24/7 Sports ranking. You see Gibson, and on the week, he's still got spring ball. I think Warner Robins has their, I guess called a red-white game this week. I think that's coming up this week. I believe it's Friday night, might be Thursday night. But Isaiah Gibson, USC commitment, certainly recognizing the GOAT talk and a dog emoji and 100 there as well. And, of course, some Georgia commitments have already chimed in, and they noticed that as well, one of those being Ryan Montgomery. So interesting little side road there with Isaiah Gibson. I know people like to catch those things on Twitter, but I thought that was very intriguing. TJ Alford, people call him, TJ's his nickname. He's out of the Vero Beach Fort Pierce area. TJ Alford he's actually an Ohio State commitment. TJ Alford is, and he's a guy that is going to check out Georgia this weekend. And his full name is actually Tarvos TJ Alford, but committed to Ohio State, number 7 linebacker, number 62 overall prospect. Haven't really heard a lot about Alford's name so far in this class. Georgia's kind of main targets at linebacker are obviously Zayden Walker. You hear Ty Jackson a lot. You hear Christian Gass a lot. Tavion Wallace out of Wayne County. But Alford, an Ohio State commitment, will be in Athens to go scavenger hunting as well. And then you got the start of really something that I've never really seen before in Georgia recruiting, and this is the prevalence of official visitors on the scavenger hunt weekend. You want to talk about Georgia going to have to juggle a lot of important moments right here. You've got, I believe the number is 4 official visitors this weekend, while you've got a guy like Zayden Walker and David Sanders and Trey McNutt and Isaiah Gibson. So there's going to be a loaded weekend right here. But you see right there, Bo Jackson out of Cleveland, Ohio. He's undecided. Georgia is in his final 3. You talk to people that follow him and follow his career up in Ohio, and they look at him as a great athlete, incredible athlete. How much of a football player is he? Probably, some of the feedback I've got kind of scouting him, kind of learning about Bo Jackson, is they'd like for him to, show a little bit more durability so far in his high school career. But obviously with a name like that, you're going to be athletic. And he's down to 3 schools. It's Ohio State, probably considered the favorite there. And then you've got Alabama and Georgia. And Georgia gets the first swing here on the official visit list here for Bo Jackson. Next list of slides, and this is what I'm talking about, something I've never really seen before on the scavenger hunt weekend, is this the listing of official visitors here. You look down the list here, you got Christian Garrett, of course, who'll be one of our DawgNation conversations tonight. Expected, feels like it's been talked about, feels like there's a great possibility that Christian will be in Athens this weekend. Obviously, it's a 15, 20-minute drive from his home and the Bogart area for Prince Avenue Christian, but that's a guy that's down to 4 schools as well: Georgia Tech, Tennessee, Clemson, and Georgia. And then you've got all these wide receivers, 2 wide receivers out of California. James Coley's going to be busy this weekend. Marcus Harris, he's out of Modern Day. That's the same school where last week's DawgNation conversation, the splendid one we had last week, this amazing one we had last week with Nate Frazier, same high school there. And then Phillip Bell, another speedster, another shifty wideout, very twitchy. You got the number 15 and number 16 wide receivers in the country. I'm expecting Mason Short to also make the short trip up. That's the Georgia offensive line commitment, the former Alabama commitment. C.J. Wiley is a name that tentatively I would put him on the scavenger hunt visitor list. Been very busy. C.J. was competing in the state track championships. I believe he's got spring game this week. He was just this past weekend up at the Under Armour camp in Charlotte, a late invite there, and he took away the MVP honor at the Under Armour Charlotte Regional. Again, that tell you something that just does not compute right now for the 6'4", 195-pound Wiley, an NFL legacy. That ranking right there, that's the 24/7 Sports Composite. Number 187 overall, number 21 wide receivers. Folks, there probably, in my estimation, haven't been 21 receivers in the last 3 years that are better than C.J. Wiley. And then another name, don't sleep on this name right here, Zaire Addison out of Riverview, Florida. Number 22 offensive tackle, number 211 overall. A lot of schools are in there for Zaire. Obviously, Florida State, obviously the home state schools there, also Oregon there. But Zaire's a guy, I've seen him in person, very talented, great communicator. We've had a DawgNation conversation with Zaire Addison. I believe we had that back in March. He could play really across all the front. He could definitely play an offensive tackle, an offensive guard. He's a guy that, great, impressive communicator. He's a guy that runs the 100 and 200 for his high school track team. He also wrestles. And this will be a big visit, I think, for Georgia and Addison. This will be a visit where Georgia can either really establish itself in the mix, or it can establish itself as one of the schools that's kind of in there but not really, really in there right there. So there's your scavenger hunt visitors list. I tell you what, it is Very impressive. Never seen that many official visitors before. You've got some huge names with the confirmation today. Like last couple of days, the Sanders family had been talking about it. They made the decision last night that they were going to be in Athens this weekend. Of course, that's huge for David Sanders and Georgia. Georgia, you want to talk about the biggest prize on the scavenger hunt? Georgia could find a way to move up the food chain even more in the top schools list there for David Sanders. There's really strong momentum there, I feel like, with Ohio State, Tennessee, Clemson, Georgia. The more you can get David Sanders and his family back in Athens, showing him really the program has always shown Sanders to be a true alpha priority in this class. And the fact that you got Sanders Jr., the fact that you got Trey McNutt, the number one safety in the country, you've got Isaiah Gibson, a major flip candidate, you got Georgia's ideal linebacker target, all in town for the scavenger hunt weekend. And I think if Vegas was going to keep odds on the scavenger hunt weekend, I think the tight end group, probably championed by Todd Hartley, would probably be the one to watch there. Don't know how many big tight ends you've seen on that board right there, but things get really crazy there with the scavenger hunt weekend. Like keys to the golf carts get lost. Golf carts with low batteries get switched around. The offensive linemen, the defensive linemen sometimes have either the fastest or the slowest golf cart. Sometimes people kind of get blocked in. So there's always some really interesting rubbing is racing, I guess, kind of rules that kind of populate or kind of emerge during that scavenger hunt weekend. And now you got major prospects, major flip targets there as well. So I thought that was really cool to take a look at right there with what you got going on there with everything in there regarding this big official visit weekend. And it's also unofficial visits as well. And I would look for obviously more names to populate on this list. That list is also up on DawgNation.com as well. We got an early list up this evening, especially when the news about David Sanders dropped right there. So big weekend right there. Now, next up on our DawgNation Big Five here on Before the Hedges, brought to you by Kroger. I thought this was pretty cool. You were one of the things you do is you always try to check out, anytime basically that the head coach speaks, especially these days, media opportunities are really limited. But I think anytime the head coach speaks, it's very interesting. We found two topics. He had this conversation recently with the Peach Bowl, and this video was shared with DawgNation this week. But two really interesting topics with Kirby Smart. Got kind of candid, and Kirby Smart spoke about two topics that are kind of central right now to the narrative regarding college football. One of those is kind of the rules, the evolving. It's not so much NIL. NIL is not a dirty word. The players deserved it. They deserved a piece of the pie. I think it's the combination of NIL with the immediate eligibility, including as many transfers now as you want, that really makes it hard for kind of program builders like Kirby Smart to know what his roster is going to look like on a year-to-year basis, especially more than a 6 to 8 month basis. So Kirby Smart talked about that, and he also talked about NIL. I think you guys will get a kick out of this.
I would say that players can't transfer until they've been 2 calendar years. They've had a residency at the school for 2 years, and then they can transfer without penalty. They can transfer prior to that, but they got to sit a year to make kids commit to being out of school for 2 years and get a base of academics and know there's a 2-year commitment window there, really just 24 months. Most kids come mid-year now, so it would be, January to 24 months. And I think more kids would stick around if they'd been there 2 years. I think more kids would be more successful if they had done that. And they can still transfer if they have to. They just got to sit a year. And after that, they'd be free to transfer. Yeah. I'm probably going to send it home to my parents. They were both high school educators, and would probably tell them to save it for me and put it away if I was fortunate enough to get some. But I probably wasn't one of those guys that would be getting NIL.
Interesting there. Kirby is always very humble when he talks about his athletic background. I mean, folks got to remember, Kirby Smart was a very smart, very physical player, very strong player, and actually pretty fast. Lots of times I bump into former teammates of Kirby Smart around Athens. They've always got a great Kirby Smart story, both on and off the record. But one of the things that comes to mind, they always say, really fast, really strong, really smart. Obviously, he's a guy that, he was pretty funny about his first NIL, what he would do if he was an 18-year-old and got an NIL deal, and he would send it back home to mom and dad. I thought that was pretty cool. And also, the first clip there with Kirby I thought was really, really interesting. He was asked, what would he do if he was the college football commissioner? What would be his first act to do? And you heard him just go right straight to the center of it, which is, making sure these kids, these young men, this periphery and this new Wild West, so to speak, is not doing these young men a disservice with their development and also their transcripts and their academic path. It's really hard to pursue on a degree when you're maybe at 3 schools in 3 years or 3 schools in 2 years. And I thought those were pretty interesting comments from Kirby Smart about 2 elements right now that are pretty big going on right now in college football. All right, guys, Big 5 rolls on. I think right now we've got a chance to check in and talk to one of the major targets right now in Georgia's 2025 recruiting class. He won a state title earlier last Thursday, coming off a shoulder injury. I think he was cleared. We wrote about this on DawgNation.com. He was cleared like 2 days prior to the first region meet. Then he went through sectionals. His mother, Danielle Garrett, was like, no. But at the very end, she found it to be an incredible blessing. She was very grateful for a process where Christian, the competitor that he is, finished second in the shot put a year ago and wanted to come back despite having labrum surgery in January that he basically dealt with his entire junior year. So the 2-time state champion in football at Prince Avenue, probably going to get a third this year. Greg Vandergrift's got a really strong team again at Prince Avenue and Bogart, but then he adds a shot put state title to as well. It was such a big feat that his family, his mother, thought that was the second biggest thing he's done in athletics after his first collegiate offer, basically almost 2 years to the day from the day he won the state put shot put state championship in Class 1A. We got a good DawgNation conversation queued up with 4-star defensive line target Christian Garrett, one of those homegrown targets. Let's listen to it right now. What was the significance of your July 20th commitment date?
No, there ain't no significance to July 20th. It's just really just giving me time to weigh everything out after the OVs and so it allowed me to commit for the season.
What's your OV schedule? Was it probably tough putting it together, right?
Yeah, first it'll be May 31st through June 2nd, Clemson. June 7th through the 9th, Georgia. 14th through the 16th, got Tech. And then the 21st through the 23rd at Tennessee.
Is it going to be one of those 4? I mean, you're taking those 4. It's kind of pretty simple.
It's pretty open between those 4. It's narrowed down to those 4.
What will the winning school get? What will the school that you choose have to have?
Really just wherever I see myself really fitting in, improve my game and whatever fits me, what's best for me and my family.
How do you feel about Georgia?
I mean, Georgia, yeah, they always been high up in my recruitment. I've been a priority to them since day one. So yeah, they really good with me.
What do they compare you to? What do they say out of your game that they really value?
They say they see me. They don't really compare me to anyone. They'll see me more like a Warren Brinson, like a Z-Lo kind of guy. So
5-tech, maybe?
Yeah, like combo end. So I play first, second down on loose 5-5, and then rushing inside on third down, 3rd down.
Tell me about Clemson.
I mean, Clemson, I had a good relationship with Clemson since they offered me. I mean, I got a good first impression with all of them, so I'm really close to them, and I feel like they can develop me really well.
Tennessee?
Yeah, Tennessee.
What about them?
Tennessee always been high on my recruitment also because, I mean, every time I go to Tennessee, it's never a bad experience. I just like the way they coach, and I like the way they develop their players and the relationship they got with their players.
How difficult do you think this is going to be, man?
Oh, I think it's definitely going to be a tough decision. I mean, I feel like I'm pretty good right now with the 4, narrowed it down to 4 from out of 26. So it's really going to be hard within these next couple months, really talking to God and really just weighing everything out so I can make that decision and start developing, improving my game.
Let me ask you about Georgia Tech. Obviously, that's part of your Final Four. What makes the Jackets soar for you?
I mean, the Jackets, they really sparked in my recruitment late January when Coach Santucci, Coach Simpson got there. I built a good relationship with them, and I feel like they developed their guys, and they show time after time that they can turn the program around. So if you want to get on board, you better hop on now.
What's your relationship like with Travion?
Coach Scott?
Coach Scott, yeah.
Yeah, me and Coach Scott I texted him after I won. He was supposed to go see me in the morning, but his flight got delayed. So, yeah.
So you texted him after you won, huh?
Yeah, me and Coach Scott, we got a good relationship. He called me before I threw, called me after, so, yeah.
What did he say? Congrats?
Yeah, he said, he was talking about me and Nas. So, it was me and him competing. So, yeah, me and Coach Scott got a good relationship.
I've noticed you guys both competing. What do you think of that guy? He's a huge football player, right?
Yeah, that's my dog. I got to know him in football and in track. So, yeah, we got a pretty, low-key close connection.
Christian, do you feel like, will it be like the official visit that goes the best might be the choice, or how do you see it working? You said they're all pretty close right now. Do you think the place you feel you have the best official visit might be the one you choose?
It's definitely going to be one of those four, but I'm not really sure what I'm looking for right now. It's just, like I said, after I get the 3 weeks and that almost month to weigh everything out before I make a decision.
What's it like looking out at your family at a moment like that? You don't get one of those in football, right?
Yeah, it feels good. I see the smiles on their face. They coming up and hugging me. It feels good.
Christian, last thing, man. I got to ask, man, you are a state champion. And everything. How many rings you going to leave Prince Avenue with, man?
As many as I can get. I mean, Prince Avenue, we're a winning program, so all we do is win. So it's expected.
How are you going to be better for your senior year?
Really just improving on my technique, the little things. I ain't really going to get into it because it's really kind of nibble and kind of small things, but really just focusing on improving myself, improving my game overall.
Christian Garrett, state champion. The Dogs had one major target win the Class 1A shot put, and they had one signee win the Class 1A discus, man. Hey, Christian, really appreciate your time.
Yes, sir.
Hey, guys, back here with Christian Garrett. That was part of our Big Five, and really interesting to talk to him. Obviously, he's got 4 schools. He's going to then take his decision into July. He says he's going to use those 3 or 4 weeks to kind of figure it out after his last official visit. I believe they go Clemson, Georgia, and then he's got closes out with Tennessee and Georgia Tech. Clemson, Georgia Tech, Tennessee. And then July 20th is his commitment date. So obviously the Dogs have always been in strong there. I think DawgNation folks that are listening in on that interview, that some pluses for the Dogs, obviously the location, the development. Sounds like there's a really close relationship there with Trey Scott. Also kind of has a low-key, pretty good relationship with Nasir Johnson as well. That's the 2024 defensive line signee. So Christian Garrett, again, likely I'm kind of projecting him. The way it sounds right now, talking to people close to him, that he's thinking about it, probably will end up being in Athens for the Scavenger Hunt weekend. So obviously those things are always subject to change. Catching some questions here in the comments. Let me make sure I do that. I think Henry Dion, thanks for kind of clarifying that. The addition of David Sanders Jr. is basically to the weekend, to the recruiting weekend. He's going to be he's confirmed to be an unofficial visitor for the Georgia's Scavenger Hunt weekend. It's really the start from a march of about 6 weeks here for Georgia, where they're going to be hosting a lot of major commitments and targets. Basically, May 24th, that one's not loaded, but the rest of those are, with basically, and kind of to answer the question there from Henry, I also see on YouTube, basically I see Georgia probably taking about 24 to 27. I think the number now always depends on NFL attrition and also transfer portal attrition of kind of guys that are in the program that decide that their careers are better off elsewhere. I think that number will fluctuate. I do expect Georgia to take, again, maybe 4 or 5 wide receivers, also at least 4 or 5 offensive linemen in this class, especially with the exodus, very likely NFL departures across the wide receiver room and then also across the offensive line room as well. So just seeing a couple questions there, kind of keeping up. Again, you guys just joining us, we are playing a DawgNation Before the Hedges scavenger hunt. We had earlier in the show a list of 5 things. I wanted you guys to look for. If you see them, you find them, you get them all done, send me an email to jeffsentellajc@gmail.com. And the first, thank you for that. Good job, Kaylee. Thank you for that. But first person that sends me an email, I'll put together some DawgNation merch because we're playing Scavenger Hunt right now on Before the Hedges. Like the Dogs are going to host a Scavenger Hunt this weekend for the recruiting weekend. Again, looking for this. Somebody names drops a superhero in an interview. Tell me the name of that superhero. Number 2, tell me the recruit with a very famous name is mentioned. We're looking for something like, a Marlon Brando kicker. We're looking for something like, Luke Skywalker type linebacker, something like that. Just a very famous name is mentioned. You guys will probably know it when you hear it. Third thing is when I say something is going on that I've never seen before in UGA recruiting right now. Number 4 is identify the Game of Thrones reference in this week's show. A lot of Game of Thrones fans out there as well. And number 5, who is the new name added to the commitment list this week? If you guys don't know who number 5 is, man, we got some talk. We're going to have a talk after this show because that's what's going on right now. Next up, we have number 5 in our Before the Hedges Big 5 brought to you by Kroger. This is a really good DawgNation conversation. I caught up with 4-star defensive line signee Nasir Johnson at the state track meet. He won the Class 1A Division I discus with a new state record. Threw that thing 170 feet, 10 inches. He continued a string in his family. His brother won the state title in the same event in 2022 and 2023, and now Nasir Johnson wins it in 2024. Learned a lot about Nasir. Probably is going to end up being one of our next generation profiles later in the early summer to midsummer. But Nasir, all you hip-hop fans of the 90s like myself, Nasir was actually named after Nas, the great hip-hop artist of that time, of that era. That's where that name came from. You want to learn a lot of other stuff about Georgia 4-star defensive line signee Nasir Johnson? Sure you do. Check it out right now here on Before the Hedges. Nas, let me ask some fun questions with you first. Superheroes are kind of a big thing. If you could be any superhero, who's your favorite superhero, man? Is it Hulk? Is it too easy to say the Hulk? Who would it be?
Nah, it'll definitely be the Flash.
Why?
Because, I'll be able to freeze time with just my speed abilities.
Pretty thoughtful answer. Let me ask you about the moment of the day. You set a state record. I don't know if you know that or not, but it's the 1A state record in the discus.
Yes, sir.
Tell me about your throws. I think you had to come off the mat, come from behind a little bit to do that.
Well, my first throw was a scratch. I stepped out. Second throw was it was a scratch, but it was I almost saved it. And my third throw was that's the throw I needed. Everything was perfect still, so it was very perfectly timed. The release was A1 straight down the middle, and it was just release out of hands from power.
Was this a goal? Does this mean something to you when you look back in your high school career? Is this one of your bigger accomplishments?
This is something I always wanted to do. I always wanted to win a ring, period, no matter what sport it was that I played. Unfortunately, with playing high school football, we didn't get far enough to get to the point to, even compete for a ring. But hey, we had pretty good seasons here and there, And then, I say, probably my senior year probably was the best season, but I always had a plan to get a ring in something. So my next up best was track, even though I didn't have to really worry about depending on the next person. It's all me thing, not being a selfish, a selfish player or anything like that, because I always help and try to benefit the team as much as I can. But I was the way things were going right now with other sports, my best chance of getting a ring is an individual sport, which is track. Mm-hmm. So I went and did that, and that's just mean the biggest thing to me, because it's just it's following down the legacy. My brother got one, I got one, and now I'm looking forward to my little brother getting one.
Nasir, obviously this is the last athletic school thing you'll do before you become a Dawg. What's the mindset? What are you looking forward to about getting to Athens?
Well, first thing, get there, be ready to work, be on point, come in with a plan. I already have my plan, long term, short term. It's always I always got to stay focused, stay on the right path, keep God first. So with that being said, it's just boom, I come in there how I need to come in, I leave, NFL, I'm all there, I'm ready. I just ready to be prepared to go to the big league, bigger than the collegiate level.
When's the last time you went to Athens? Did you go up for spring or the spring game or anything like that?
Yes, sir, I went up for spring game.
What was your thoughts on that, man?
I mean, I loved it. It was very energetic. I love the way the defense is looking. I love the way the team is looking. So I love the chemistry that they're building already as like the incoming players and the transfers coming in and all that. I just love like how everything is falling together.
What has Coach Scott and Kirby said since you've grown, since you signed, man? What are they saying, man?
They just ready to get me there, get to work. And so possibly when a freshman, not starter, but my goal is to be a starter by my freshman year. But at least be in the rotation to get a good amount of minutes.
What's something about you that you want people to know besides how well you can play football?
I mean, the person that I am. Like, I'm a chill person. I'm like, I can be funny here and there, but I'm very chill, humble. I'm very motivative. And like, I mean, I'm one of them kind of people that you like, if you need any kind of advice or just need to get something off your chest, I can be the person you can come to. And like, I could just be like a personal counselor or something like that. It's just who I am, just a good person in general. It's not like outside of sports, people are comfortable with chilling with me, you know, conversating with me, things of that nature, just because of who I am.
Nasir, what does Trey Scott say about the plan for you? What does he see in your game where he can make you special?
Mainly stopping the run because I'm used to stopping the run. I'm known for that. But getting to the pass game and being able to rush the passer efficiently and things of that nature.
Do you look at a guy like Jordan Davis and say that's your path, or is it a different bulldog? Like, what's the roadmap for you?
I say like a mixture of Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter.
Wow. It's a pretty good group. You said you had short-term goals and long-term goals. What are do you mind talking to me about what your short-term and long-term goals are?
Well, short-term, of course, right now is to make it through college and be like, you know, set a standard for myself and put a name behind myself instead of like following in somebody else's footsteps or being in somebody else's shadow because what they've done before. I want to be able to lead and break records in my own name for one. That's short-term. That's with me being in college. Long-term, I want to graduate college with a degree. I want to go to the NFL, of course. And then I want to get as far as I can with the NFL. After that, I want to fall back into my dream of being a truck driver or building engines, which is like within like automotive and things of that nature. So I just want to be able to do that and start my own business. And after that, I just want to go back to college for like culinary arts and things of that nature because I love to cook and I know how to cook very well. So I want to go back and start my own restaurant in front of my auntie, you know, things with that, like, because she wanted to start a restaurant before she passed. So it kind of like, you know, put that little thought in my mind, said like, I should do this for her.
Your auntie, that's a motivator in your life, I guess.
Yes.
What was her name?
Her name was Antoinette Doherty.
Antoinette Doherty?
Yes, sir.
What kind of restaurant did she want to open?
But she just wanted like just a restaurant, like something family based, you know, like she wanted to run it through the family, just, you know, she never like really made it specific what kind of foods and things like that.
Just like the family food, right? Soul food, maybe meat and three, country food, that sort of thing?
Yes, sir.
Why did you ultimately, first of all, choose Florida and then flip to Georgia? What was the big reason there?
Well, with Florida, I felt like with the recruiting through Florida, like they felt like people that I could trust for the next 3 to 4 years, things like that. But after a while, I just felt like I had these thoughts, like I didn't feel like it was gonna be stable, you know, so where I could just, you know, get properly developed and go to where I wanted to, you know, ultimately be, which is in the NFL. So I felt like with the rate that Georgia is going right now, they're stable. They're putting out D linemen every year, just about. And I feel like I could be one of those D linemen within the next 3 to 4 years to be put into the NFL draft first round possibly.
What was the moment you knew you had to make that decision and take that tough move to flip? Was it on a visit? Was it at a camp? Was it at a game? Like when did you know?
Originally, I wanted to commit to Georgia because that's like my dream school. But I didn't feel like, at the moment, I didn't feel like I was wanted there. So I was just like, I mean, got to weigh out my options now and see where it's going. But I had to realize everything is not always right then and there. But I kind of feel like I did rush my recruitment a lot because when I did, I committed really early, which was in June. On the visit, I committed then, but I feel like that was too early. So I feel like I kind of threw myself off of that instead of just waiting it out and seeing what's really coming my way. But yeah, that right there is just like, yeah.
I think you're known more for not the Florida to Georgia flip, but for the flip you put on social media. Can you tell me the genesis behind that? Did somebody tell you to do it? Was it hard?
Nah.
Can you still do it? Like, what's that all about?
I can definitely still do it, but I grew up doing that. It was just like at one point when I was in middle school, I had gained so much weight, I didn't have the faith in myself to do it. So I was just like, oh, nah, I can't do this no more. And then after a while, like we was playing football, I had a knee injury. Well, it wasn't a knee injury, but it was just something like, I just like, you know, tweaked my knee a little bit and I was just like scared to do it again. That spring of my 10th grade year, that's when everything popped off. I was like, it was spring break. we was at my grandma's house. We was doing flips off of the trampoline, of just doing things, me, my brother, and my cousin. So we were just doing stuff, and then I was like, I'll do one on the ground right now, say I won't. That's when I was just like challenging my brother, because he can do it too, but I was flipping before him at one point. He just never stopped. So I was like, he was like, no, if you do it, I'll do it. So then I was just like, bet, and I did it, and showed him like I still had it.
What sort of reaction did college coaches have to seeing that?
They was just like surprised, shocked. They didn't expect nothing like that from me, especially like me being my size that I am. I mean, of course, a lot of people are athletic and explosive, but that's a different kind of athletic and explosive. It's for you to trust yourself to go upside down, backwards, and still land on your feet.
When do you report to Georgia?
May 28th.
May 28th, that's after graduation, I guess, and everything. You got a message for all those fans out there that are waiting to see you? You got a message for DawgNation and everybody out there?
I'm coming. I'm not gonna let y'all down. It's all in it. It's all in it. We all in. We dogs. Go dogs.
Awesome, Nasir. Hey, man, thank you for your time. We're here with the state champion. I got to ask you one more thing. How's it feel to be a state champ, man?
I feel great. I feel great. Age stopped smiling since.
Nasir Johnson, thanks for spending some time with us today.
No problem.
Hard not to like that guy, right? Nasir, did you hear him? He wants to, of course, let's do some cliff notes here right now. So he talked about maybe the player parallel path. Say that 9 times fast. The player parallel path for him in Athens is maybe a mix between a Jordan Davis and a Jalen Carter. This is the same guy in his interview that talked about a lot of stuff. He talked about his short-term goals, his long-term goals. He discussed how he's going to hit the ground running, and we also got to check in on that flip. Guys, that is so impressive to see him do that. I believe he did that when he was in maybe 10th grade, 6'5", 290 at the time. He's now 6'6", 335. So he's put on it. He's actually grown, guys, about an inch and added on about 30, 35 pounds since the time he signed with Georgia back in December. Of course, he flipped from Florida. That was a big deal then. Of course, interesting backstory he kind of shared about how Georgia didn't feel wanted by Georgia coming out, even though Georgia was his dream school. And especially like in the summer, right around this time last year, in the summer of his kind of when his recruitment really started heated up, and he committed to Florida, and he looked around, looked at Florida, didn't think that stability was there, didn't think the development was there at Florida. And guys, this is a guy, you see the way he moves. He's a state shot put champion, 6'6", 330. Very good head on his shoulders. You can tell he's going to be very driven, and that's the type of player that Georgia takes those raw materials and makes them an NFL first-round, second-round draft pick in a couple of years. You hear how he talks about movement is very important into his game. So that's a guy you want to think about the guys coming, or maybe the guys Georgia didn't get in the transfer portal during the second opening of the transfer portal window. Well, they get a restock of talent with a guy like that in Nasir Johnson, who will be in Athens on May the 28th. So really cool talking to him. Really cool learning a little bit more about Nasir Johnson. And, folks, I could watch that flip over and over because that is something you just don't see a whole lot as all. All right, guys, that was number 5 in our Before the Hedges Big 5 brought to you by Kroger. Thank you guys for hanging out again. We've got our Big 5 put to bed. Now, that means right now it is question of the week time right now. And you know what I try to do? I've got 2, but let's kind of stay on task with this one right now. The first one, I guess I want to talk about, it's kind of like when I was thinking of this question, I was kind of thinking about the chosen one or the prince who was promised during his time in Athens. And what I meant by that is which UGA recruit lived up to all the hype during his career in Athens. So to be the right answer to this question, this is a guy that had to be a 5-star, had to be coming in and everybody saying, this guy is going to be great. And really, the hype was met and maybe even surpassed. And there's really 3 names I thought of. I thought of Nakobe Dean. That would be a great answer to that one because he came in as a 5-star and the nation's #1 linebacker. And he was already playing his first year. Remember him making big plays already as a freshman against Notre Dame in that big night game in 2019. And then he goes on to win the Butkus. He goes on to bring Georgia a national championship. Kind of the same things for Nolan Smith. He had a great production getting out on the field early in his Georgia career, and He goes on, becomes a first-round draft pick, and wins a national title. Helps Georgia win 2 national titles as well. But for me, my answer, kind of that, Prince who was promised answer, that a guy was coming in and was going to be great in Athens. And to me, the answer right now is Malachi Starks. And that's my answer in terms of a guy that was a 5-star coming in, one of the nation's top athletes. And really, from his first game, everybody remembers that interception he had against Oregon. He didn't start that game, but gosh, he started every game since. He's played like an All-American. He was up for all the top national awards last year, the Nagurski, the Thorpe. He'll be a major contender for all those as well. So to me, so far, which UGA recruit during the Kirby Smart era lived up to all the hype during his career in Athens? Now, of course, the natural all-time answer is Herschel Jr. Walker. Got that. But I'm kind of thinking about which UGA recruit lived up to all the hype during his career in Athens in the days of 5 stars and the days of everything like that. You can go back a little bit, but talk about a guy that came in supposed to be projecting a first-rounder, made a big play in his first game, and then started and played at an all-SEC, all-American level basically ever since. That, to me, a great answer to that question would be Malachi Starks. Lots of good ones. But recent history, Kirby Smart era, I think Malachi is a really good choice for there. But I certainly would accept a Nolan. I would accept a Nakobe Dean as well. And, another name, of course it would be Brock Bowers, but Brock Bowers wasn't a 5-star. He didn't have a ton of hype coming in. He was a number 100-ish overall recruit. So that's my answer there. So I also had another question of the week. And I hope Ms. Mansell would be able to weigh in on this as well. But obviously, this is a Kroger-sponsored show. Kroger's been a great partner for us as well. I want to know, what's your favorite aisle of the grocery store? I was talking about this recently with some friends and family, and everybody's got their own opinion. Is it the produce aisle? Is it the meat aisle? Is it the soda and beverage aisle? Is it the ice cream aisle? Is it the pasta aisle? I'd love to hear your answers in the comments below. Like Kaylee, I know you are a very great shopper and a great nutrition person right now. You are handling everything in your life really well. Cleanses, you're going through like major health regimens right now. Do you have a favorite aisle in the grocery store? I guess you can't say the National Enquirer aisle or the bubblegum aisle. Kaylee, what would be your favorite aisle in the grocery store?
This is tough. Can I give 2 answers here? Because I don't know if one of them is going to count. I like the flower aisle. I'm a Trader Joe's girl. That's where I do the majority of my shopping. And they have like a whole aisle with just flowers. So I've become, I've really started to like that because I like to keep fresh flowers in my house. I'm going to go with a very dark horse, underrated pick here. The aisle that has all the seasonings, because I like the way they have them all organized, like your salt, pepper, like the different seasonings and salad dressings. I don't know why, but the way they have it organized is just very exciting to me. And every time I go on that aisle, even if I don't need anything, I always seem to find a seasoning or a dressing that I don't have. So I'm going to say like the aisle that has the seasonings and the salad dressings.
Wow, good ones. I kind of like fruits and vegetables. I'm a really big produce guy. As the guy that one time got mocked by Brandon Adams for really liking veggie pizza. Ice cream aisle is really great for me, too. Obviously, the soda, beverage, water aisle is also great there as well. But everybody, I would imagine, if we were playing Family Feud, Kaylee, I don't know if you ever play that, but like my kids, my family, we love to play Family Food at in-laws, grandparents, or whatever on big holidays, but we'd like to play Family Feud. I think the number one answer on the board, do you think it would be cereal or do you think it would be candy aisle? What do you maybe soda aisle? What do you think would be the number one answer that most people might say?
I would say either chips or cereal.
Yeah, I would agree with that. You guys got to take on our alternate hybrid Kroger question of the week. I thought that was a pretty cool thing to talk about because everybody loves their grocery store. Everybody loves their neighborhood Kroger as well. So I thought that was a pretty cool fodder for debate right now. What is not up for debate is the Dogs recently added another name to their commitment board in the class of 2025. We got a lot to talk about right here. Our weekly class breakdown. You see it starting to populate a little bit right there. look right there. You've got Elias Williams, Ethan Barbour, Mason Short, Ryan Montgomery. I bet Ryan's probably wishing he can get to Athens right now this weekend because there's a lot of loaded names he wants to recruit for the Dogs. He's actually got to be in, I believe it's State College, Pennsylvania on Sunday for the Elite 11 regionals. So that's kind of like got a conflict right there. But I know Ryan would really want to build the class right there. But you got Bo Walker right there. Bo Walker, again, he's going to take some official visits. He's hoping for an offer from Alabama, I believe he doesn't have. That's where he was for the spring game. He went to the A-Day there instead of G-Day. He still has an integral part in the Georgia 2025 class. Going to visit a couple of other schools. I believe Louisville's one of those. But right now, feels like Georgia is still really good shape there with the commitment there from Bo Walker. You got the new name on the list this week, 4-star wide receiver Thomas Blackshear out of Savannah, Georgia, just outside Savannah. He's played at Benedictine Military. Now he's at Calvary Day. First wide receiver commitment for the class. He becomes, obviously, Georgia's going to need 4 or 5 high school receivers in this class, and I think Thomas is a good place to start. He can kind of play all over, 6'1 and a half, 196. Kind of big playmaker type right there. Thomas Blackshear is your new commitment on offense for this week. Flipping it over on defense right now, kind of staying the same right now in terms of the names. Last commitment there was right around G-Day, right before G-Day with Stephon Shivers and then Darren Kennegbon out of New Jersey. Jaden Perlotti, he's going to take a lot of visits. He still says a lot of great things about Georgia. He realizes Georgia is a place where he can get developed like nowhere else. Jaden remains a guy. You see him on campus. You see him at games and events. He's really talking up Georgia to a lot of guys that are in town about how great it would be to play for the Georgia Bulldogs. Moving on right now into our weekly kind of table stakes right now. We called it this week, I think, our green eggs and ham. It's a name, the number that moved up there, 9 commitments. Georgia moved up to number 12 nationally, 6 on offense, 3 on defense, 6 in-state, 3 out-of-state. You've got state with the most commits, obviously Georgia, 7 commitments in the SEC footprint, 2 commitments beyond the SEC footprint right there. And guys, it's what a apologies for all the dinging right there on my laptop, but that's kind of what happens when you talking to a bunch of recruits every day and get a lot of text messages back from earlier messages. Elias Williams is the only 5-star commit. He's the only top 50 commit. They have 2 top 100 commits. That's Williams and Perlotti. Top 150 commits, it's still those same 2, but then a bunch of names show up. Mason Short, Ryan Montgomery, Ethan Barbour, Darren and Kennebon as well in the top 200 commits as well. Those really impressive players. Those are all on the 24/7 Sports composite as well. That's your recruiting snapshot. You've seen the commitment class breakdown, and now let's look at our top early targets. Got some names moving up and around, up and down here. Dijon Lee drops a little bit. I think there's a really strong battle here taking place between Georgia and Alabama. Alabama can probably promise more immediate playing time for Dijon Lee. We've moved Isaiah Gibson into the top early targets. He's no longer just off the list. Make of that what you will. Cortez Smith, Lilburn, Georgia. He also won a state championship in the shot put as well for his Parkview High team. Parkview's going to play an inter-squad scrimmage, I believe, on Saturday. Moving up the list, Usmani Kromah out of Leesburg, Georgia, Lee County. Everybody calls him Oos. Be very interesting what happens in the class there with Bo Walker, perhaps, and then maybe a Todd Robinson. Is he going to be a guy that plays defensive back? Should he choose Georgia? What about Bo Jackson if he wants to commit this week? The Ohio resident coming into Athens this week on his official visit to do some scavenger hunting. Marion Dye out of Elkhart, Indiana. Dontrell Glover out of Fairburn, Georgia. I believe he set his commitment date for July the 1st. Bryce Davis, the edge out of Greensboro, North Carolina. That's the first board of the top early targets. These are basically the top targets now for 2025 because we're in the meat of the recruiting cycle right now for Georgia and other major power brokers in college football. moving on the list right now, and these are a lot of names right here that, folks, if you want Georgia, if you want to see Georgia finish in the top 3, top 4, top 2, number 1 again in the class, I think Georgia's probably going to have to get at least 5 or 6 of these 7 names. This would be the major class builders. Juan Gaston Jr. out of Westlake High School, his teammate Travis Smith Jr. Juan has told me he wants to take his commitment until the middle of the season. I would expect Travis Smith Jr. to have his decision ready to go in July. C.J. Wiley, that's something he's told me recently as well. He wants to get it done after he takes all of his big officials in June. C.J. Wiley's another guy that's told me he can make his official visits in June and be prepared to make a commitment in July before the start of another championship assault from Milton High on a loaded team right there. Zayden Walker, he set his commitment date for July the 5th out of Ellaville, Georgia, Sly County. Justice Terry, this one's going to take a while, folks. This one's going to sit in that oven. It's going to marinate. It's going to be like your favorite tailgate entree item that you kind of smoked and you cooked and you waited and waited and waited and waited. That's what USC and both Georgia are going to do. Elijah Griffin out of Savannah, I believe Elijah's going to take his decision all the way to signing day as well. He announced some official visits in June. He's going to take his official visit to Georgia during the season. And then there's David Sanders Jr. We've talked about David a lot. I think David, in my opinion, he's been the number 1 top target in this class since we debuted it in November of 2023 when we were still working with the 2024 class. He has remarkable ability. He has great feet, great work ethic, great strength, great power. He can play multiple positions. He is wired to win. He is a very serious-minded kid, and I think this is one of those recruiting kind of decisions here with David that's going to go the wire, but I think it's also going to be a situation where everything's going to be thrown at him because I think he deserves a lot. I think he is the type of player that the market is going to get probably pretty crazy for David with schools like Ohio State, schools like Tennessee in the mix, and you see a new entry like Nebraska. I think a lot of people look at David, and that could be a guy that could play high-level Power 5 winning football in the SEC or maybe the Big Ten, probably right out of the jump, maybe midway through his late of his freshman season in college football because he's putting on the weight. The weight is getting where it needs to be. I think his potential, I'm going to just say this, I think his potential would be as strong as any offensive tackle prospect Georgia has ever recruited or could potentially sign. That's how talented I think David Sanders Jr. is. Very impressive player. Number 1 on the top early targets for 2025. Just off the list, you see one of the official visitors right there for this weekend, Zaire Addison. I think Zaire is sneaky, low-key, very important. If you had to tell me the 3 or 4 biggest pieces of news that would come out of this weekend, I would say blowing the doors off Trey McNutt, the number 1 safety in the country. I would say kind of getting back into that visit high lane with David Sanders Jr. It would be becoming a top 2 school for Zaire Addison, and then maybe really moving the dial with Bo Jackson to the point where he kind of feels like Georgia is the place that can get him to where he wants to be in college football and on to his pro career. I think those are some of the biggest things that can happen potentially. And again, it's kind of staying in that really strong contenders chance with another name like Zayden Walker as well. If Georgia could accomplish all of those things, that would kind of be like, maybe like taking down the Night King or something like that in terms of how good Georgia, how big of a feat that would be if Georgia could accomplish all that under the guise of a scavenger hunt weekend. Christian Garrett just got kind of final confirmation. That was one of the texts right there. He will be in Athens this weekend for the scavenger hunt. You look at some big names right there. Maybe one new to the list is Michael Carroll out of Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Michael has some very strong 2025 film. He's nasty. He's mean. He's aggressive. Javion Campbell is another guy out of Frankfort, Kentucky. He's a guy that we've spoken to a lot. We'll be writing about him on DawgNation.com really soon, but great potential after just his first high school season a year ago. checking on the next list of names right there. We've kind of trimmed it down a little bit. We took a couple names off the top targets 1 through 15, and when we also took some names off here on just off the list. Our second page of names, you see Bo Jackson's on the list. He's an official visitor to this weekend. Another name we added, we've got Todd Robinson on there for now successive weeks, several weeks now. Another name, you've seen Eugene Hilton Jr. kind of drift down a little bit from a top target to maybe just off the list. I think he's still firmly in the mix for Georgia at wide receiver. And then a name, Chuck McDonald. Recently, he has Georgia. Georgia's going to get an official visit. That's the same high school that, again, Nate Frazier played at and is graduating from and moving on to Georgia from as well. Kevin Wynn, Eric Winters. Eric Winters would be a star in Athens. I think Georgia is specifically recruiting Eric Winters to play star. And then you got a very talented wideout, Talon Taylor, out of Illinois. You see a lot of these names, more Ohio than ever before. I was having a discussion with another analyst in the business this week, and I was kind of talking about, he asked me, like, what do you see with Georgia kind of moving into the Midwest? And I think it's a bunch of things. I think it's the national brand of Georgia. I think it's the fact that they're kind of like Alabama was for a very long time. The 42-2 record over the last 3 seasons and the back-to-back national championships. They feel they can go in anywhere in any pocket of the country and get the players they want or the players that they can evaluate and develop to play championship football at Georgia. You see Georgia doing a lot more over the last couple of years in places like New Jersey and Texas and the Midwest. They've always kind of worked SEC country, Georgia, Florida, that sort of area, Alabama, South Carolina, North Carolina some years. But you see them kind of moving all over the map now really well right now in the 2025 class and kind of beyond. That's kind of the reason why Georgia is a national brand. Guys, that was just off the list. Let me see if I can hop on, take a look on YouTube, make one more roll through that. Good answers to the questions. I saw Andrew Thomas is a great example of the one who lives up most to the hype. Jermaine King, you make me laugh tonight, man. Georgia could end up with Bo Jackson and Bo Walker. Jack Marino wants to know, didn't Georgia just get a wide receiver commitment? Let me see. Ice Cream Aisle, Eggs Aisle. I think Jay Shipes was having funny with most lived up to the hype in terms of JT Daniels. Jimmy Hoskins with a good answer there about Jalen Carter as well. Let me see. Let me make sure I hit Facebook. You guys got any quick questions? I'll make sure to check them out. Hope you guys have enjoyed the program. You guys enjoyed what you've seen so far. Thought it was really good stuff there with Nasir Johnson. I wanted to make sure that you guys got a good taste of him and everything else like that. Lots of talk about USC on Facebook right now. Kind of the big news of the day, just kind of recapping it. Official visit weekend, Scavenger Hunt weekend, and now this is going to be a David Sanders Jr. weekend. This weekend in May has got a major headliner. David Sanders, I believe, has made at least 5 or 6 visits now to Georgia. He'll be again in Athens this weekend on his family, with his family. So very interesting to watch there. And then a couple more weeks, he's scheduled to come back to Georgia for his official visit. The number 1 offensive tackle in the country and the number 2 overall prospect in the country. Really, I've said this before, he could be a 5-star defensive end. He could be a 5-star tight end, perhaps 4-star tight end, and he's a 5-star offensive tackle. The weight's coming on. I think I saw him recently on social media, Power Clean 365. Robert Geathers, who's on the Providence Day staff. You remember former Georgia Bulldog Robert Geathers just basically gushes about David's future. He sees him as a potential Myles Garrett type player, not just a potential Broderick Jones, Andrew Thomas, maybe even a level above those type of guys, considering how explosive he is and his athleticism, everything that brings to the table. So Georgia has a huge loaded recruiting weekend this week. And now, last thing, guys, remember, we played Scavenger Hunt tonight on Before the Hedges, kind of like we did with Scavenger Hunt for our show, like with Georgia's hosting a Scavenger Hunt this weekend. We had 5 things we wanted you to look for. First person to send me an email with the answers to those 5 things I'll get you something DawgNation. I'll take care of you out of the DawgNation prize vault. We will have a good time with it. I appreciate everybody hanging out, playing the scavenger hunt with you, because that's what we do. We try to have fun here every Wednesday night on Before the Hedges by Kroger. I'm Jeff Sentell. That has been your intel. Tell you what, we'll see you again later on the pages of DawgNation.com. You guys be kind, be amazing, be good to one another. We'll see you guys again later. Check you next week on DawgNation.com.